2 bathrooms. The thing that was wrong with it was a cleanliness issue. It wasn't a structural issue. The house is sound as a top. There's only one way to say it. None of us would have lived in that house. It had nothing to do with the structure.
It needs repair. It needs a...
Well, I'm going to tell you exactly what we're putting in. That's how much we're putting in fixing the house, $100,000.
Can I interrupt?
Yeah, sure.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, go ahead.
do we have the authority to alter this?
Yes, you do.
Yes. So all we have to do is arrive at something that we agree on?
Exactly, that's right, yeah. So Mr. President, you just pause a minute. After what you said, you've given us a lot to think about and maybe discuss a little bit. So before you continue, why don't you just let us talk about
Sure.
this?
And I'm sorry because this is confusing, and without discussing it, I'll just tell you there is replacement cost appraisals, there is comparable appraisals, there is tax assessments, and there is averaging. And you're looking at 4 different ways to come up with a number. That's the problem. And there's only one accurate number.
Before you go much, just Lisa, quick question. Two quick questions. The appraisal, the $325,000 appraisal done by Stein, did you say that you and Ken had reviewed that appraisal?
Correct.
Did you find some items that you had issue with?
He said that there were some issues with some of the methodology. He didn't agree with some of the methodology.
And I actually agreed with Ken.
Right.
I agreed with him. That's why I told you I didn't. I thought it was
All
well.
right, just wanted to get that question. And then, second, Mr. Andrews, when he passed out the sheet, said that you and Ken and Mr. Andrews had discussions today and endorsed this process for coming up at a more reasonable number than 662. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I mean, Ken and I both understand his rationale.
Okay,
Yes.
but that doesn't mean you necessarily endorse that number. You haven't come to that conclusion, right? You didn't reach a conclusion on what the number should be.
Yeah, I don't think it's an unreasonable number. Yeah.
Okay, you don't think
I don't think it's an
374?
unreasonable number, no.
Right. Okay, good.
You basically have the right to build 4 units.
Correct.
Is that right? And one of the reasons that small lots are more valuable per square foot is because the basic value is the right to build a house on that lot.
Absolutely correct.
And I would say that almost nothing in Jamestown is worth less than $200,000 at this point. If you can build a house on it, then the lot's probably worth $200,000. I think there's a nice compromise number would be $400,000, and I would move that we authorize that.
Yeah, I'll second that, Mike. I think it's
Would be what number?
400, right?
Yes.
I'm trying to relate the value. The big question is, what's the structure? And that's going to
We're
determine how
really
much.
just worried about the acre of raw land.
Yeah, but you do
Yeah, we're not really worried about the structure.
But you got to subtract the structure.
But you're talking about backing it
Structure
out.
And that's why I mentioned the structure.
And
I know there's a house near me that is in comparable condition to that house. And it's been up for sale for well over a year now. It includes 14,000 square feet of land. And the asking price for structure and land is $250,000. So I think it appears to me that the house, the structure here is a little high on what we're valuing.
that's what I was trying to address.
So I would like to see a little more than 400,000 evaluation on that house, on that land, because I think the house is worth less.
If I can address that.
Sure.
And we're going to
Just want to finish discussion here. Duncan, did you have a thought yet?
I don't have anything to add to or
My question, your number 400, you see that as a compromise. Based on your background, what's your logic?
My rationale?
Yeah, just,
Well, obviously 662
I
doesn't.
think that at the last meeting, we kind of resolved the recommendations related to duplex. And so really what we're looking at right now is the recommendation in terms of multifamily. So, did everybody bring their planning report from the last meeting? I should have mentioned to do that. I should have made copies of that. But the planners report from the last meeting that talked about, anyway, I'll just talk from mine and explain to you what I'm looking at. We had discussions at the last meeting about the minimum square footages for multifamily dwellings in the R20, R8, CL, and CD. And there was some discussion about reducing the minimum square footage in both the CL as well as the R20. I think at this time, I'm going to recommend that we simply go back to the square footages that are that were in the previous ordinance. And I know we had a lot of discussion about Article 10, which refers specifically to just multifamily dwellings. And the more I read through it, the more it's clear to me that this, I'm not sure where it came from, but it was somewhat rushed in reviewing this because there are several discrepancies in it. None of them, I feel, are harmful to the process, and that, say, for example, if you have a minimum lot size of 20,000 square feet, and the table in 10-1, if you remember, that talks about minimum developable area per bedroom. If it comes out to be a different number, clearly the larger number would prevail if somebody was to come in. So there's no fear, at least on my part, that somebody would try to utilize this section of the ordinance and it would be you wouldn't be able to interpret the ordinance, because clearly I would be able to interpret the ordinance. But what does bother me about that table 10-1, which talks about minimum developable area per bedroom, is the fact that what I believe the intent of it was dealing with areas that are not serviced by public water and sewer. And the reason I feel that was what it was intended to deal with is that you've got the distinction in that table of giving a minimum developable area per bedroom, and then they distinguish it between if you've got water, if you've got public sewer, and if you don't have either, it's a different number. So I think that was really the intent of that table. So if you assume that, which I think is a good assumption, then in the R8 and the R20, you've got public sewer and water available, and it should be mandated that it be used for a multifamily dwelling project or a multifamily structure. And so I don't believe that we need to address the minimum square footage per bedroom in that section at all for the R8 and the R20 districts. And then we go to the R40 district, which is listed in that table. And what's not listed in that table is the minimum developable area per bedroom in the R80 district, which does allow multifamily structures. And so in that case, I think we might have to add a lot size in. So I wasn't fully anticipating making a decision on this tonight, simply because I didn't have a whole lot of chance to look at it and provide you something ahead of time. So do you think it would be advisable, Mr. Chairman, to continue this topic to the next meeting? Yeah. Okay, so on those kind of themes that I just discussed, I think I'll develop that into a written recommendation for the next meeting.
So I'll entertain a motion to continue item number 2 on the old business zoning ordinance amendment related to duplex multifamily dwellings.
Okay.
Gary made a motion, Richard seconded it. All those in favor? Anybody opposed? New business, comprehensive plan survey discussion.